Welcome back, listeners, to today's episode on the BizBlend podcast. Now, listeners, sometimes growth it looks like more clients, more followers, more capital, more profit. But then sometimes growth looks like less noise, less hustle, less pretending. Now, for this episode today, we are going to explore what happens when consciousness meets business. My guest built a career at the top of academia and corporate leadership, only to hit a wall most people would never talk about. Burnout that stripped everything down to the truth. From a 24-day water fast to founding ConsciRise, a space where integrity meets healing, he is redefining what sustainable success really looks like, listeners. So, this isn't going to be your typical business chat. It's about the inner infrastructure behind outer impact. So, grab your curiosity and maybe your journal because this one's going to stretch how you think about growth, service, and self. So, let's begin on this conversation on BizBlend with your host, Sana. And listeners, meet my incredible guest, Dr. Jonathan Locust. Dr. Jonathan, as always, it is really an honor to have you here.
Thank you again so much. It's my pleasure and thank you again for all the work that you are doing to elevate consciousness and to provide a space where people can discuss these things.
Thank you so much. That really means a lot, Dr. Jonathan. And let's begin first. From your journey. I mean, it is definitely a transition. You went from leading diversity and inclusion efforts at a high level to then founding a company which is built on consciousness and healing. First of all, I think all of our listeners would be thinking that in a world where where people say that everything is fair in business, only numbers, and it's all practical. It's all reality. There is no space for anything soft or anything which is not tangible. How do you see consciousness healing um, blending into the world of business and entrepreneurship?
Yeah, that's a wonderful question. And I think it is blending, I would say, because even when you mention those numbers, right? But we know there's processes behind those numbers and there's people behind those processes and numbers, right? So
Yeah.
those people had emotions, they have feelings, and they're going through things on their personal lives and as well as the inter-office or inter-corporate kind of relationships that people have. And I think that what we're seeing is that people are not only becoming more aware of certain things, but their perspective of is changing of being able to have workspaces to where they feel like they can actually the company is actually providing these types of either wellness or conscious based things. And one of the things I guess you can even look at to see is that when you look and see that kind of the amount of time, especially in the US, the amount of time that people, I would say younger people, right, like are staying in positions are less and less. And when you see the companies that are being able to retain these kind of, I would say, younger group of people are companies that are allowing more where they are having rooms for meditation or they are having spaces to where they're having someone come in to talk about wellness or they're getting gym passes like they're doing these types of things and blending not only the wellness piece but also I think those conscious pieces when again when you get into meditation, breath work, and even some of these corporate retreats that incorporate some of these things. So I think it not only becomes it's a need from people, but if you are in a business, it's going to become a must for you to be able to recruit and retain wonderful, diverse talent.
So I think that really hits deep, because um, even if it's about numbers or output at the end of the day, I think, and even if there are systems or structures or automations or AI or anything to put everything in place, I think the entire dynamics, the entire soul is driven, is built, is created by the people, the humans. And wherever it comes to humans and people, I think consciousness is something that cannot be ignored or overlooked or discussed about.
Yes, I agree. I agree 100% that it's something that should not be ignored. But I think even when you look at
Mhm.
overall interest in these types of things, you see vast increases, right? So, and the
Mhm.
people, we may have talked about this, but it's not like consciousness doesn't necessarily has like kind of a definitive operational definition. It's one of those things that is researched, right? It's explored. But I think that people can say they've had experiences that are related to consciousness. And when you kind of think about those things that have garnered millions and billions of views just on YouTube, right? Things about when people are having psilocybin experiences or ayahuasca experiences or near death experiences or NDEs or hypnotic or hypnosis experiences. All
Mhm.
of these different experiences that they had that are tied to consciousness where they leave with some type of output of saying that they've had they feel a greater connection to people and to the universe or to their source, and we just see a greater kind of cultural interest in these types of things. And even you look and see like even in California, now psilocybin is going to be able to start being used. Psilocybin treatment
Mhm.
is going to be used to be able to help veterans, right? So these are things that are being explored in different ways, and these experiences are for sure conscious based experiences. So I do think that fortunately that there's going to be more of a even more and more of an intermixing of these types of concepts and experiences, because if you're having more people that are having these types of experiences and then they're working at either traditional companies, they're bringing these experiences inside the company whether they're talked about or not. But we know that experience becomes a part of their selves because of that identity, right? So being able to have a way for this to be able to flow.
Yeah, absolutely. And also, and in your journey, I mean, when you look back, do you think that the burnout that you um, had to experience, that was inevitable, or could it have been avoided with a different system of leadership or a different approach?
I think for me it was inevitable for for kind of a few reasons. For one, most people who are leaders or entrepreneurs, we just work very, 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 very hard. And you get to a point to where you can only work so much without having some type of balance, and burnout is going to be inevitable. I think the reason I say was also inevitable for me for that second piece is because of the strong lesson and conscious based lesson that I got from it. And it
Mhm.
was the need that I had to bring in these type of experiences to balance that work type of mentality and energy, right? We all know like things are our energy and we're energetic beings. And um in order for there to be certain things need to be in certain balances for things to operate efficiently, right? And to function the way they need to be. So for me, I think it was inevitable because I'm just a super, super hard motivated worker, but also the lesson that I learned was I believe tied to my experiential path, which then helped me be able to understand the gaps that I had in my lifestyle, which then I was able to then feel to have a more balanced lifestyle.
Hmm. I agree. I agree. And I think sometimes the most important decisions or learnings or transformations, they come from either some some of the lowest points or moments from our life, um or some of the negative experiences as well. um but I think that it is a really really good thing that you are very openly sharing your experience, especially on burnout, especially as a leader, because it's kind of assumed that as a leader, or as a founder or entrepreneur, even if you are burning out, even if you are not feeling that creative urge, or you're not feeling quite aligned uh, inside out, you still have to keep moving on and on, because without you, your business or your company is not going to survive. But then at the same time, we also, as the saying goes, like, you cannot pour from an empty cup. So I think it's a very good thing that, you are sharing it, and people, especially leaders or founders who are listening, they are, able to understand it from someone who has lived that experience.
Thank you for mentioning that, but and again, thank you for allowing me a space to be able to share. And I think what I realized, even as I have talked to entrepreneurs, because even entrepreneurs are in my friend group, and I have entrepreneurs that are business leaders that are very, very successful. And one of the things that you find is you get to a point to where you reach that pinnacle of success that you've kind of dreamed about or kind of have planned and really worked hard to reach. And once you get there, there's kind of a still kind of a feeling of emptiness. And it's a real thing. And some people may have maybe religious beliefs to feel that, which of course is helpful and a beautiful thing. Some people may have spiritual beliefs, but to be able to have something that you can lean into, and what I believe it's that emptiness is is a lack of one knowing oneself. And that emptiness is essentially a phone call, a reach out to, a connection of your inner self acting, and asking for connection to be able to, for one to fully know themselves.
Hmm. Agreed. Agreed. And also, after your 24 day reset, um what changed in your decision hygiene? Like, if I can kind of like clarify that. So basically, what changed in your way of like, way you scope, or you time box, or you commit at the executive level, or maybe in your decision making style?
Yeah, yeah. So I would say that for when I did that, when I did my 24-day water fast, the reason that happened was because I had a health issue. And I was told essentially by traditional medicine that I would have to be on medicine for the rest of my life, as well as would not be able to have another child. So it was a very tough time, but part of my ways of healing myself led me to a 24-day water fast. And I can tell you that was one of the hardest things I had ever done. Now, if you do fast, you do know fasting gets easier after around day 3 or 4. But still not eating for an extended period of time. I was still very active and working out. But one of the things that I learned during that time of fasting was that the mind can No, I'm sorry, the mind is connected to the universe, and the body will do what the mind tells it to do. And if one has the will and the connectedness to do something, they could do it. So after that fast, I learned that I healed myself. So that was the number one thing that
Mhm.
changed my life. The second thing was I had a greater belief in myself that I was able to do these types of things. And that was what I would say started to change my leadership style was because I believe I became a better leader because I had a better belief in myself because I was the youngest president. I had people that reported to me that were older than me. So they're even going into it with some maybe some imposter syndrome. But after I was able to, you know, do these things and heal myself and lead a fast. I just had a greater belief in myself, which I believe made me a better leader because I had a better belief in myself as well as a better communicator because I could more efficiently communicate my ideas because they were coming from a place of honesty and more transparent.
Mm, that is really, really impressive, Dr. Jonathan. And I also think that that 24-day fast now, um, we talk about stress. Sometimes it is kind of overused as well. But then and this is something that I heard from I took actually from a very interesting conversation I had with a guest on another podcast. He's 83 years young, and he talks about this interesting point about good stress and bad stress. So whether it's about body or mind, I think it is possible to have that harmony of us taking good stress, which makes us assess the reality, be prepared, um, hold ourselves accountable, and also become better leader and become a better person. And at the same time, there's bad stress as well, which we often talk about. So I think this entire reset, it not only changed you physically, but it holistically changed you as a human being.
100%. I mean, it certainly was, and I would say one of the things that it taught me, kind of to the point that you mentioned when you talk about like good stress and versus bad stress, I would say the thing that I believe in, and I'll mention this to your listeners because this was something that I learned in my healing journey, but I also learned is also parallel and relates to how many people are able to heal from cancer. So and one of the things that I was at an integrative health and cancer conference, and one of the some of the doctors there had talked about the journeys of people they heal from cancer. And one of the things that they talk about was they learn about quantum physics and quantum mechanics and things like that. And that becomes part of helpful in one's healing journey. And one of the things that you learn in that process is that we're all energy and the experiences that we experience are energy. And those experiences are for the most part are neutral. But it's our personalities, it's our kind of personal experiences and things like that that assigns feelings and emotions to that experience. And one of the things that do becomes helpful as we shift our consciousness is we are able to look at situations from what I feel as is from a more higher vibrational perspective. And it kind of widens it a little bit to where we're able to see that, a lot of the things that we're dealing with are energy, and being able to understand the lesson behind that energy, what that energy is there for, is a way and a mechanism to then be able to move past whatever one may be kind of assigning that energy to be, whether it be negative, positive, wonderful, and so forth.
Yeah, yeah. I wholeheartedly agree to that. And the next question, it's kind of interesting because it's kind of a background, or rather, as you say, it's a catalyst that made you create ConsciRise, a community of vetted holistic practitioners. Now, during the time, your healing journey, you have said that you encountered people who sought to exploit your vulnerability. So, if you can, just give us a glimpse of that entire journey, and how exactly ConsciRise is trying to bridge that gap, and reestablish that trust when it comes to healing or consciousness.
Thank you for that. So, when I was going through my health issue and I was looking at things that were outside of traditional medicine, um, I just found it very, very difficult to find people who were vetted. And, from working in higher education, we have, accreditation. So there's an independent organization that comes and makes sure that the institution stays accredited. There's something similar with hospitals. You have the Joint Commission. So for me, it was just kind of, I think, a more of a naive assumption that there was something kind of in place that, kind of regulates these. So to know that these practitioners are real, they are who they say they are, and but I found that not to be true because when I went out, not only did the people try to sell me things that did not work, but promised to do things that they couldn't do because I personally believe like people can help you provide a tool to maybe your healing journey, but healing is done internally. So just really try to just kind of do things that and sell me things that were just very, I would say, not service to others oriented, very, very service to self driven. And I went on to learn that, from that, I was more curious as to has what happened to me happened to other people? And went on to find out that in the US alone, that just on paper through lawsuits, there's been over 8 million people scammed out of over $1 billion. And that's not even counting the scams that happen on Facebook and TikTok, of people really, really in need of something, wanting these types of services and being vulnerable like I was because you're in a place that a difficult situation and you just want on kind of alternative help. So that was the impetus that led me to create ConsciRise, which is consciousness rising, those two words, and to be able to have a space where as people are going through different things or they're seeking a more conscious community, they can for one find a community that they can get access to that is free. They're welcome to join, and we have different events focused on increasing consciousness, as well as find and connect and practitioners. We have a 5-step vetting process for our practitioners. That way, when you're dealing with someone real. And then we also have, I would say, one of the widest varieties of practitioners from Indian Vedic astrologers, from monk shamans to people who focus on hypnosis, holistic coaches, a large variety of experts offering specific service to them be able to help people through their different situations.
Hmm. Very interesting. Very interesting. Before I move on to the next question, I one thing that I also absolutely agree with is, unfortunately, there are a lot of bad actors. They kind of thrive on um, vulnerability of people who may be going through difficult times, challenges, whether it's health or mental health, or life as a whole. So I think this is so much necessary, first to acknowledge and then spread awareness as well, because once people who are seeking who are actively seeking or who may not be able to actively open up because of the fact that they are very much not having that trust on the systems. I think it's very, very necessary to spread awareness on this, Dr. Jonathan. So, with that, one question that comes to my mind before we wrap up, when speed and safety they kind of collide or conflict, what's your priority or tiebreaker? Like, is it the margin impact, or is it the brand risk, or it's a hard ethical red line?
Mm. Um, I would say whenever it's kind of speed versus safety, uh, I would have to go with safety, especially with what kind of the industry that we're in. And the reason I say that is, you know, most of the time when we're dealing or with people who is our customer, these are folks who are experiencing a difficult time. So they may be going through a divorce. Their loved one may have just passed away. There could be they may be going through a health issue like I was. So they're going through something, so we want to make sure that, that we are providing kind of the best of community, the best of service, the best of care to our customers, because they're at their time going through something of very, very kind of great difficulty. And safety versus speed is what's best for the customer. And that's what we always want to do, is do what's best for our customer.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think that's the real moat for conscious businesses. It's not about the brand deck or the governance. And I really appreciate, like, I really admire that you are turning your lived experience into a repeatable policy, not just as a some kind of, cautionary tale.
Absolutely. And and that's one thing and I that I believe is, our experiences that we learn, even our most difficult experiences, can be used. That energy can be utilized and transformed to something that can help other people grow. And then when you look at even some of the people who have experienced some of, the most horrendous things, and I'm not saying that my health issue was the most horrendous thing compared to what other people have experienced. When you look at when people have experienced horrendous things, they've been able to take that and use that to help people who have either experienced similar things or going through something. So, 100%, we want to be in that same line and that same way of being able to be of service and be of support to people that are going through something. But also, if you're interested in consciousness, like, we want you in our community. We just had a lecture or a community talk on consciousness and AI, which was fascinating. So we're all about expanding consciousness, and doing that in a very, very diverse and cultural, effective way. That's why we have astrologers. I mean, we not astrologers, but practitioners from all different types of backgrounds. So, absolutely, we care. We want to make sure that we use our lived experiences. That way we can be of service to others.
Definitely. Definitely. And uh, I mean, there's so much to discuss, but Dr. Janata, before we close this conversation, I think every entrepreneur will, specifically who are actually, um, dreaming or they are working on something to make a mark, especially when it comes to mission-driven businesses or mission-driven entrepreneurship. Um, like critics would say that conscious leadership, it drags velocity and it compresses margin. So if, let's say, um, the numbers, the profitability or the EBITDA and integrity, they kind of collide. Which one would take the lead there for you?
Yes. So I guess that's I would say for those two, I would have to go people first, right? And so, because I believe when you go people first, the the finances and things are, are surely just they're going to follow. And I also think too, I'll say this, what I just saw a study that came out that there are people who, in order to stay remote, are are willing to work for 30% less.
Mhm.
And I think that what they're showing is that people, um, they wanna work their way and they value their time differently, right? And I think this value on people, people valuing their time, just differently than maybe previous generations have, and with that shift that is happening, I believe if businesses do, not people first and kind of put those numbers, gotta do this, and um, I believe they're not gonna be in business for long.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I think it is very specific because, everyone um, would say that, or everyone would love mission until it's month end or it's time to pay their bills. But I think um, for the people who would be a part, their entire thought process, their values, um, would be very specifically aligned with the mission and vision. So the energy would be entirely different, from what conventionally or traditionally we have been seeing when it comes to entrepreneurship or business.
Yeah, yeah, 100%. And then, I mean, you're also kind of just looking at a group of the workforce is significantly different as well, right? Like the customer base is experience it, it completely different. Like just people, I have a 4-year old and she has her own tablet. Not that she gets to use it all the time, but she has it for different learning activities that she's learning how to read and things. But the interactiveness and exposure of what she has access to learn at her fingertips is just different. So the customer is just just kind of a lot more savvier customers than others have been. And I'll kind of say this as well. You're also looking at people who, which I think having a background in education, this comes into place. You also are looking at people who have, and I'm talking about a population of people who have spent more time homeschooling their children. Like homeschooling in the US has also increased as well. And I think that also has kind of an impact on what people's experiences is when they are consumers and things. So it's really, really interesting like how all of these different kind of look at them as cultural trends where they how they all intersect with business and how businesses are going to have to really make some changes to make sure that as they are leading consciously, because if you're not leading consciously, you'll get called out for it, and not only when you get called out for it, you'll end up being the TikTok viral video saying don't go to this place.
Hmm. Makes sense. Makes sense, Dr. Jonathan. Wonderful, wonderful. So if listeners they would like to explore ConsciRise and they would also like to connect with you, Dr. Jonathan, and share their thoughts after this conversation, how they can reach out to you.
Yeah, yeah. Well, please feel free to email me. You can email me at Jonathan, JONATHAN, at ConsciRise, CONSCIRISD.com. Um, I'm on Instagram at JLocust Jr. You can find me there. Connect with me on LinkedIn, and we are at ConsciRise for our social media handles. And we would love to have you visit our website. We would love to have you join our community. Our community is completely free, so we don't charge anything to be a part of our community. We're getting our calendar together for next year, so we're going to have fast community fasting experiences, community sound experiences. mind, body, spirit exploration experiences. So we would love to be able to have you join us as we learn from you. Hopefully, you will learn from us as we seek to grow and increase consciousness together.
Wonderful, wonderful. I'll make sure to have all the links in the show notes for all of your listeners. And as we wrap up, I think um, when it comes to conscious or consciousness in business growth, I think it isn't about what would you think, like those glowing chakras and the perfect balance. It's about brutal honesty. It is the courage to slow down in a world that keeps shouting more. So, Dr. Johnson, thank you so much for reminding us today that expansion without alignment is just exhaustion without better branding. With better branding.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you so much again for having me. Thank you so much for the wonderful conversation, the wonderful thought provoking questions. I'm super appreciative, and I am so looking forward to our next conversation.
Yes, well, thank you so much, Dr. Jonathan. And to all the listeners, if today's discussion it made you pause, maybe that's the point. Growth doesn't always roar, sometimes it whispers. Until next time, this is BizBlend and I'm your host, Sana. See you next time where business meets being. Thank you.